evening and welcome everyone to the Select Board meeting of Wednesday, April 17th at 7:15 p.m. I'm Diane Mahan. I'm Chair of the Select Board. I'd like to continue the tradition by my previous chairs of having everyone introduce themselves, starting with my colleague on the right.
John Hurd.
Joe Curo.
I'm Dan Dunn.
Steve DeCourcy.
Adam Chapdelaine.
Douglas Heim.
Marie Kropelka. Thank you. I thought that was a good tradition. The other one I may employ sometime during the year, but I have any musings here tonight. So first we're going to do the consent agenda with 5 items. Farmers Market 2019, Patsy Kramer, our market manager, request contractor drain layer license. Knight Excavation Company out of Malden, Mass. requests special one-day beer and wine license. April 28th, 2019 at the Whittemore Robbins House for Japanese Sister City dinner. Request special one-day beer and wine license May 4, 2019 at the Arlington Masonic Hall for the Arlington Center for the Arts Jug Band Festival. An appointment of new election workers, Sean Brogan and Evelyn Ginsparg. First, is there a motion?
Move approval subject to all conditions as set forth.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hurd. Is there anyone here under consent agenda that wants to come up and say anything about their specific events? If not, any further questions or comments from my colleagues? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, unanimous vote. We will now go to Citizens Open Forum. I just want to let everyone know, on the Vice Chair's recommendation, I'm going to, right after Citizens Open Forum, jump to Agenda Item 7, which is the discussion and approval regarding calling a special election on June 11th, and discussion around the override and debt exclusion questions. So if you're here to speak for that, it's going to be the very next agenda item after Citizens Open Forum and does not have the limit that Citizens Open Forum does. So, except in unusual circumstances, any matter presented for consideration of the board shall neither be acted upon nor a decision made the night of the presentation in accordance with the policy under which the open forum was established. It should be noted that there is a 3-minute time limit to present a concern or request. Do we have anyone on this, Mrs. Kropelka?
It's about the ballot questions, so should I do it now? Or?
I'm going to get right to that next. Is there anyone else here for Citizens Open Forum? Seeing none, we will now take out of order. We will go to Agenda Item 7. Mr. Dunn, would you like to start us off?
So we've been preparing for this for a long time. We've had many discussions at this. I think this is probably the 4th time this has been on our agenda already this year, and it was on our agenda previously several times in the last year. And so I'd like to move that we place 2 questions on the ballot for June 11th. And specifically the alternative order for ballot questions is the title, where question 1 is the debt exclusion for the Proposition 2.5 to demolish, build, and rebuild the Arlington High School. And question 2, an operating override of $5.5 million, just to be clear, not 5.6, which is a draft that we had. And as we put forward those 2 ballot questions, that we also adopt the commitments that we have discussed that include devoting a portion of the increase to supporting our schools, devoting a portion of the increase with supporting mobility for elderly and other school pedestrians, and of course the commitment to not do another operating override for 4 years.
Thank you. A motion by Mr. Dunn. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Curo. And I do want to commend that, and I don't know if you want to read the entire questions. I think that lots of times people say, is a yes, or and is a no, a no. So maybe if you want to read it.
Sure. Now, question 1, debt exclusion. Shall the town of Arlington be allowed to exempt from the positions of Proposition 2.5, so-called, the amounts required to pay for the bond or bonds issued for the purposes of paying costs of a project to demolish, design, construct, reconstruct, remodel, add to, and originally equip the Arlington High School, including replacing the existing facility located at 869 Mass Ave, Arlington, Mass, for the payment of all other costs incidental and related thereto? Yes or no? And so as a functional matter, what that question does is that it permits the town to borrow money to rebuild the high school and pay for it with a tax levy that's in excess of the limits of Proposition 2.5. And question 2 would be, Proposition 2.5 override, shall the town of Arlington be allowed to assess an additional $5.5 million in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of funding the operating budgets of the town and of the public schools for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019? And that, whereas the previous question 1 was a debt exclusion, which means the tax rate returns to other limits once the debt is paid, this Proposition 2.5 override is effectively a permanent increase unless, and is subject to 2.5% increases going forward.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from my colleagues before I call on Mr. Chapdelaine? All set. Okay, if you want to, please come to the microphone. Please make sure the microphone is linear with your mouth, and don't hold it. Just say your name and address for the record and whatever remarks, pro, con, or otherwise you may have.
Hi, I'm Kate Leary. I'm at 39 Milton Street. And I'm really just here to thank you for your support of both of these questions and putting them on the ballot. And we wanted to make sure that you saw that we appreciate and support these questions. About the high school, I don't think there's a lot that needs to be said, except that we really, really need it, and it's time. And this building is going to do the job that we need it to do, and the planning has been excellent. About the override, I also think the planning has been excellent, and it makes sense to do this before we start losing services again and backs are against the wall. About the schools, I wanted to express appreciation for the school department's careful 5-year planning process. Len Cardin is here, and he was a part of that. And also just to say that this is very much about paying attention to where gaps are happening, where students are not being reached. That this is about how we've fallen, further and further below the state average because of having such dramatic enrollment growth. It's about, a student who needs reading help who maybe is not able to get it with the current funding model. It's about students who maybe their issue is not being caught as soon as it could be because we don't quite have the funds to buy all the assessment tools that we need to. So I think that's really what this is about, and with these funds we can help narrow the achievement gap and catch up on some materials that we need to buy. And really make sure that we're reaching all of those learners. So I really appreciate the board's support of both of these questions. Thank you.
And just one question.
Yeah.
If anyone watching this wants to maybe get frequently asked questions from a website, a Facebook page, maybe wants to see where they can get involved, although I know you and Jane and Lauren and certainly have the structure set up like before. Is there a place they can go on Facebook, website, anywhere?
Thank you. Yes, so I am working on the Build Arlington's Future campaign, which will be supporting yes votes on both of these questions. You can go to buildarlingtonsfuture.org to learn more. We will be adding more content tomorrow or the next day, to volunteer, to give money. And I also just wanted to show that this room is full of people who support these questions and appreciate your work on it. So I was wondering if they could stand up just to show why they're here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Chapdelaine, in terms of maybe on the override side, I'm assuming there's something going to be on the town website in terms of facts figures, or am I incorrect? Like some of the materials we got here tonight, is that something we publish to the website or no?
Yeah, I think everything that was presented at the Budget and Revenue Task Force, we can put on the website, absolutely.
Just the numbers. The town website doesn't take a position, pro, con, neutral. I'm just talking about, we had a Budget and Revenue Task Force meeting, a lot of the people were here tonight, and the town manager and deputy town manager, Sandy Pooler, gave an excellent presentation of what we look like years out with an override, without an override, and numbers from the state aid chapter 70. So that's the only thing that, so if you want to see that, you can go to the town website on that.
Yep.
Have I covered everything from
So
Attorney Heim? Did you have?
I do have one technical request for the board. There technically should be a separate motion and vote to call a special election. So if the board would call would vote to have a motion, the order is not super important. I just want to make sure that we've got all i's dotted and t's crossed. So we call the special election, and the motion Mr. Dunn made is to put those two questions on the ballot for that special election in that order.
Okay, so, Mr. Dunn,
I withdraw my previous motion, and I move that we call a special election for June 11th to be run from, Mrs. Kropelka, I didn't think about this, is it 8 AM to 8, is it 7 to 8 or 8 to 8? From 8 to 8.
Second.
seconded by Mr. Kuro. Any questions, discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, unanimous vote. Mr. Dunn?
I move that we place the two questions as described earlier, the debt exclusion, the Proposition 2.5 override for $5.5 million on that ballot for June 11th, with the specifying that the debt exclusion shall be the first question.
Okay. Seconded by Mr.
Second.
Kuro. Any questions, discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. All
Aye.
those opposed, both unanimous votes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming.
And now we have, let me close this out, sorry. What did I do, Dan? Wait a minute. How do I get back? Which one do I want?
You may be offline, give it a try.
Perfect, okay. Agenda item 6, for approval, MBTA bus stop signage installation and replacement initiative, Wachusett Ave at Florence Avenue. And do we have Mr. Amstutz here?
I think you have me tonight, Madam Chair. huh?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
No, that's
Chair.
okay, that's all right.
Tell me how I say his name correctly.
Amstutz.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
you said it right. So this is a matter that was before the board at its February 25th meeting. There were, I believe, 4 bus stops at which rear bus stop signs were being requested so that a bus could come all the way into the curb to allow for handicap accessible boarding. The board approved 3 of those requests and asked for a little further research on this one based on concerns raised by the immediate abutters or residents abutting that bus stop. So you'll see in the packet, there's the original memo, a memo providing further detail to the board and further correspondence with the MBTA, as well as a letter that was sent by the Disabilities Commission supporting rear bus stop signs across town to make sure that there could be accessible boarding and supporting this one in particular. The basics of it are the MBTA does feel strongly that putting this sign in place will allow this bus to get tight up to the curb, allow for accessible boarding. It does eliminate 1 parking spot in front of the home based on where it would be placed, and would, when stopped, would block the resident's driveway, but that's a current condition. Given where the bus stop is, the rear bus stop sign doesn't add that condition. So happy to answer any questions you might have, but would ask for your favorable consideration.
First, I'll entertain a motion from
I'll
Mr.
move,
Kuro.
I'll move that we approve the recommendation.
Is there a second by Mr. Hurd? Any questions, comments? Mr. Kuro?
I just want to say, I had some of the concerns. I appreciate the additional outreach to the Disability Commission, and, I'm satisfied that this is the proper action for us to take.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, unanimous vote.
Thank you.
Excuse me, new business, Mrs. Kropelka?
No, I don't have any new business. I don't think I do, other than just the election, which we just did. That's it.
Attorney Hines?
Very briefly, I wanted to update the board. The marijuana establishment application process and the application itself is essentially ready to go. We'll be looking to put it online tomorrow, pending just a little bit of comment from the health department. The tentative date right now to have the application submitted is May 3rd, Friday, May 3rd at noon would be the deadline to submit applications. And then the tentative date, discussed a little bit with the chair, would be to have hearings on May 20th, dependent a little bit on whether town meeting is wrapped up by then, given the number of presentations we may have and the fact that they'll be 20 minutes long. We've talked about basically putting it as a tentative date, but it's subject to change depending on the board's schedule and availability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Could I
Chapman.
ask a question about that?
Sorry, Mr. Kuro.
Do you, we had approved, having the working group vet these two, so do you anticipate those applications going to the working group shortly after that deadline for receipt?
Exactly, Mr. Kuro. The working group and then the preliminary review team will basically get a parallel look at the applications to make sure that it's done with sufficient amount of time for them to take a look.
Okay, thank you.
And just on that matter, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we're working backwards from a date in May to have those hearings. I've asked Attorney Heim to word the timing of the hearing to allow us the flexibility that if we are still in town meeting, you know, on a Monday or Wednesday night, and if we only get 2 applicants at 20 minutes each, that should be okay. But I think anything beyond that, I just want to have the flexibility if we have to have a Tuesday or Thursday meeting, if we get 4, 5, or 6. And I'm going to leave it to Attorney Heim, how you phrase that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So I just wanted to let.
Good idea.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
Mr. Chapdelaine?
Just 2 pieces. One, some of the board members may have the same piece of new business, but I attended the Patriots' Day Parade as just a spectator with my family, and saw a few of you there. It was really a great event. It was put together very well, and big thanks to Jeff Chunglo, town's veteran agent, for really leading the charge along with numerous volunteers and other town staff that put it together. It was a good weather day and a very nice community event. And then my other piece is, I think we have a few board members who have signed up to be part of the truck pull on April 27th, and a few who aren't able to come, but I just wanted to plug the event. It's to raise money for a good cause, the Relay for Life, to support research, cancer-based research. And if you don't want to participate, but you want to attend and come cheer the teams on, it'll be at the St. Camillus parking lot, 9:30, April 27th. So that was fun last year, and I think it'll be more fun this year. That's all I have.
Mr.
Yeah,
DeCoursey?
I'm one of the members. Contact on that. Just briefly, I just want to congratulate all the runners from Arlington who ran in the Boston Marathon. I think there was 47 residents from Arlington, and I didn't hear if all 47 completed, but I know there were some outstanding times, and just to finish it is such an accomplishment. So congratulations to all our runners.
Thank you. Mr. Dunn?
Something to put on probably your plate, which is that, so at the recent election, we approved another all alcohol license, or license for a package store. And so just as we're running this process for the cannabis store, we probably want to run one for the alcohol. And I talked to town council, and the license is there, so we could do it whenever. So I think we should just draw up a schedule and figure out when we want to do hearings and make that award.
And that, to that end, I wanted to get a sense from my colleagues of, I see the all alcohol hearing. I don't think we can get it done in April because we have to post it and do all that. But I see it happening in either May or July is the only way I can ensure a full board. Is it the sense from my colleagues that to try to find a date in May or go for July?
I think we should be ready for May.
Want me to go for May? Okay, I'll work on that, and then, I'll make sure
It's
that.
just me, so you can
No.
ask the rest of the
What I'll
board.
do is
I see
I'll,
some hesitation. but-
I'll have the select board's office, send out as FYI what I'm thinking of where, and just with the caveat, if for some reason the May meetings are really full, I'll ask for a poll of, do we also have the same night that we have cannabis, or if that's too confusing, or maybe it makes sense to have the both together. But I want to have a way that, we don't have a meeting where some people are languishing forever because, so maybe we look, Mr. Dunn?
Yeah, my only hesitancy with May is town meeting. Is that if town meeting is going and we're in a 9-night town meeting, it really wears on the staff and that's my only.
And that's why I was thinking about July, because I really want to ensure I can have a full board, because I don't know that I can do that in June. So we're going to shoot for the July, or?
So I am often in favor of expedient getting it, but in this particular case, there's no application that's languishing.
Right.
And so it's going to be an open appeal. I respect wanting to do it quickly. I really do.
But I'm going to go for July, if
Yeah.
that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I have a crazy schedule. Okay, I'm sorry, any further new business?
No.
Mr. Hurd?
Just to echo what the town manager said, I did see the town manager. He was actually incognito. I don't, if anyone saw him, he was hard to recognize. But it was a great parade, great weather, unlike last year, which means we had about 27 times as many spectators as we did last year. But I just want to congratulate everyone that walked and put it together. Then one piece of, I guess it's for the town manager, that came up yesterday in the center. can we have either your office or the TAC or whatever's most appropriate look into a potential pedestrian prioritization for the light at Medford and Mass?
Medford and Mass, okay.
Because I know they did it at the light right in front of my office at Franklin, and it works great. You go out as a pedestrian, you press the light, and you get the walk signal pretty quickly. I'm always in that area at Mass and Medford, and there's a lot of people illegally crossing because it takes
forever.
I stand there with my son and try to be a good citizen just to cross over to go to the bank, and sometimes we have to just go because it takes so long. And I think there's been a few accidents at that particular light.
Yeah.
So I think,
Yeah, we can look at that.
I think it's just something to look into, see if it won't work, but just to take a look at it.
So that's a referral to the town manager. We won't do TAC just yet.
Yeah, I think we can start with the transportation planner and DPW and see what is technically feasible, see what that leads, and if TAG needs to look at it, we can refer it to
The
TAG.
light in front of my office used to be exactly like the one is at Medford Street, and they changed it, so now it's great.
Okay.
Any
That's
further new business, Mr. Curo?
No, I mean, the parade was great. Congratulations to the committee. Thank you to all of the town staff, the police and DPW and fire and others who were involved. And congratulations to the Grand Marshal, Mr. Katzos, and the Honorary Grand Marshal, Mr. Bose. And I also look forward to the truck pull, and I'm glad there'll be plenty of EMTs there in case I pull something. Besides a truck. That's all.
Okay, well, I had 3 pieces of new business. We took care of my cannabis. We took care of my alcohol.
Oh, wow.
I just want to, one of the things that I so look forward to as chair is the State of the Town, opening night town meeting. I will be forwarding to the Select Board's office and asking them to forward to my colleagues the 5 or 6 topic areas that I want to speak to in the State of the Town, but I always feel kind of silly when I get up and it's State of the Town from the Select Board. But so if you could look at the topics that I have, if there's something that should be in there, recognizing, you know, I like the brevity of a speech, but, and then it is my goal, and I'm going to ask Attorney Heim, I'd like to send out my draft State of the Town to my colleagues, and they can read it or not. Should I just do the same? I should not send it to them directly. I should send it to the Select Board and ask them to forward as an FYI.
We have a meeting before the town, before town meeting. So I guess the best way to do would be distribute it to let, you know, if there are any sort of objections or concerns or whatever, folks can discuss it at that brief meeting
Okay,
beforehand.
so just have a draft copy.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. If that's okay with my colleagues. I just feel like, you know, there may be something I should be highlighting as, you know, the chair of the Select Board that I got a brain freeze. Seeing no further business, we'll see everybody again, pending anything else happening. Our next meeting on April 22nd, 2019, I'll take a motion to adjourn by
So moved.
Mr. Curo, seconded by
Second?
Mr. DeCoursey. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, unanimous vote. Thank you.